you're new to my channel, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. And if you're not new here, welcome back. Happy Friday. And for today's video, I'm gonna do books that let me down this year. They were just okay. And I decided to do this video because of Caitlin, the Love Librarian, and Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life. I watched their most disappointing reads of 2022, and I thought it would be fun for me to do it. Let me just start by saying these are my opinions, and I don't mean to offend anybody if you love these books, but this is just my opinion. Okay, let's get started. I have 10 books to talk about. First of all, the first book, let me just start by saying I love this author so much. I love her books, and it was an okay read for me. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I was just very neutral. I know some of my friends really love this book this year, and some of my friends don't. But it is Anastasia by Sophie Lark. I'm very neutral about this book. It's just that it was very heavy on the world building. Like, way too heavy on the world building. And it was long-winded at times. And there are times when I thought certain instances were not explained enough, and the ending really confused me, but it was an okay read. I still give this book 3 stars. It's basically a book about the choices you make and you growing as an individual. And I think for Sophie's first fantasy, she did a good job. But it's not my taste in fantasy. I love some parts of the book and some parts I didn't like. That's why it's on this list. But I will say, reading it and listening to the playlist when the book says to listen to the song really made it an experience for me. And I also love the side characters in this, so I do suggest reading Anastasia. It wasn't my cup of tea in fantasy, but it could be someone else's choice. And I know, like I said, I know friends who love this book. It was just not my cup of tea, but I still would recommend Anastasia by Sophie Lark. The artwork in here was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And can I just say, Artemis was probably my favorite character in the whole book. Next, we have my disappointing reads, and that is Forbidden Obsession by Regina Wade. I read this on the Mafia Romance Readathon for the 4-day weekend, and this book was terrible. I don't even remember the characters' names, but you have this guy who was sent to, like, murder this girl, but then he turns out he likes her, so he ends up stalking her, and she has this yoga place. She's a yoga instructor, and he starts taking her yoga classes, and when she finds out, like, she is stalking, like, he is stalking her, like, she was okay with it. And I find that very unbelievable. This book was so bad. Like, there was nothing but smut. And I read smutty books, and I can tell the difference between good smut and bad smut. And this, ladies and gentlemen, was very bad smut. So yeah, Forbidden Obsession was not my favorite. The next book I'm going to talk about that I gave 2 stars is Corrupt Kingdom by Ava Harrison. I read this for cover to cover. And it was supposed to be a Hades and Persephone retelling. Let me just tell you, this story was so bad. This sort of mafia guy kidnaps this girl, takes her to an island, and they were separated for most of the book. They weren't even together, so I did not believe the romance. The romance was unbelievable. You can't expect me to believe the romance when the 2 main characters were apart for like 50% of the book. It was just unbelievable. And they used the names to a T. Usually in retelling, they give you different names, but boy, let me tell you, this book was bad. The only reason why I finished it is because it was a cover-to-cover book club. I just didn't believe the romance. The next book that was a disappointment, the Crossfire series by Sylvia Day. Let me just tell you, when the series, because I read the series when it first came out, and I remember loving it back then. I did, but people were doing reading vlogs of the entire Crossfire series, so I wanted to do it. And as I was listening to the audiobooks, I realized how terrible the book is, and like, wow, my tastes have changed. But this book was so bad, and then I remember it really liking it the first time I read it, but like, I was thinking to myself, why did I like this series in the first place? It didn't make sense. The wording she used in the intimate scenes were not for me. So yeah, I didn't like the Crossfire series as a reread. When I first read it, it was good, but as a reread, it was terrible. The next book that didn't make sense to me at all, which I also read for a book club, was for McKay and Nikki for their Out of Bounds book club, and that is Serpent in White. This book did not make sense to me at all. It was an romance, polyamorous, and like it was supposed to be like a cult romance with this cult leader and his cook and his stepbrother, but they kept calling him king. The plot didn't make sense to me at all. There was nothing congruent about this book. It was terrible. I gave it 2 stars, rounded it up to 3, but it was bad. I didn't understand what was going on throughout the whole book. The next 2 books I'm gonna mention, I realized that I cannot read books that has my family. I cannot read romance books that has my family members' names in it. And that is 5 Rounds by Nikki Castle. The hero's name was Tristan, and my nephew's name is Tristan, so that was weird for me. I skipped all the intimate scenes. I should have DNF'd this book. And the 3rd act breakup did not work for me, where she heard something about the hero, and instead of talking to the hero, she break up with him instead. I hate that kind of 3rd act breakup, the miscommunication. So I realized that I cannot read romance books with characters that have my family's names. I just can't do it. Let me know down in the comments below if it's just a me thing or other people are like that too, because I'm really curious. The other book I DNF for the same thing is because it's Honey Trap by Tate James. And you know, Tate James writes some spicy books, but for the same reason I didn't like 5 Rounds, the main character had a family member's name that I just couldn't get into, so for that reason, I DNF'd Honey Trap. The last 3 books I'm gonna mention is Promises and Pomegranates. This was, again, a book club book, and it's supposed to be a mafia, Hades and Persephone retelling again, but I read up to 40%, and I was just so bored. I didn't care about the characters, they were just so boring, and I can't figure out why this book is so popular when I couldn't care less about these characters. Promises and Pomegranates. The next book I will mention is a monster romance. A very popular Why Choose monster romance, because I know some of my friends really love this book, but I don't see what the hype is all about. It's Lady of Rooksgrave Manor by Catherine Moon. It is a monster romance.
I will stick to Catherine Moon's Omegaverse romances.
There was nothing to this book but smut. There was no plot to this book until the end. There was some sort of mystery, but I did not like this book. I needed more plot, and it was all about the smut 99% of the time. And if you like that sort of thing, great, more power to you. But I need more than just smut. I need a good plot too. And the last book is Penpal by J.T. Geisinger. I did not like this book. It is marketed as an unconventional AGA, but this book, to me, and my definition of a romance, was not a romance. To me, my definition of a romance is they're both alive. The main characters are both alive, and they're together at the end. And I don't wanna spoil it. I'm gonna spoil this book, but they're both not alive at the end of this book, but they're together. So maybe that counts as an unconventional ATA, but to me, that is not the case. I need both of them to be alive and both of them to be happy at the end of this book, and that was just not the case. And the like intimate scenes with them, with both of the characters, were just so weird for me. He kept calling her a nickname that I didn't like, Bunny, but it just didn't make sense to me. My definition of an HEA, again, they both have to be alive and they both have to be together. It doesn't count when both of the characters are dead. It just didn't make sense to me. 2 stars. Those are all the books that I thought were a little bit of a letdown for me. If I had to recommend any of these books, I would choose Anastasia by Sophie Clark. Again, I didn't love Anastasia, but I also didn't hate it. I thought it was run-of-the-mill. It isn't. I think it was a good fantasy romance, but it wasn't for me. But I would still recommend Anastasia. I'm sorry if I offended anyone, if I talked bad about their favorites. But again, I would just like to say this is my opinion and this is my channel, and please be kind and courteous in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, this video was a really fun video to make. I really enjoyed Crystal's video and Caitlin from the Love Librarian. I'll link their channels down below in the description. I would really love it if you would subscribe to my channel. That would mean so much to me. I would really much appreciate it. And I'll see you Monday. Bye.